Okay, the upper part of this stream table is a meander belt. So this is the silver part. You can see this winding channel that runs through here, and this is what a meander belt would look like. Now what we're going to do in here is we're going to look at the velocity on the inside arc of one of these, in other words the point bar side, versus the outside arc on one of these loops. You'll notice that the red arrows are where you start and where you stop, and the same with the blue arrows on the inside. On the vertical walls on the loops, you can see that there are vertical lines, and these are centimeters apart. So you can count how many centimeters there are around as far as how far you're going to go. So the first thing we're going to do then is to try the outside. We take a bead and we drop it in and hit the stopwatch, and then see how fast that took to go around, and that'll give us our first velocity. Then the next thing we're going to do then is we are going to try the inside part of the loop. So we start where the arrow is on the blue arrow, and again we drop the bead in and stop it, and then we can calculate how fast the inner part of the loop goes as well. Okay, once you determine where you think the faster flow is and the slower flow is, then you can determine where you think it's going to deposit sand. And what we'll do then is we're going to take some sand and we're going to dribble it in the top part here and let the sand run around and deposit, and then see if you're right. See if you know where you were going to deposit sand as opposed to eroding, just based on which is faster and which is slower. Slower deposits, faster erodes. The next thing we're going to do is do a shoot or a neck cutoff of this stream. And the way we're going to do that is to remove this little plug right here. And without the plug in place, you'll notice that the stream then flows directly through and not around the loop anymore. And so therefore we are creating a oxbow lake over here and a straight through down here. Again, if we dribble a little more sand in, you will see where the sand will then tend to go to help form that oxbow lake. So the oxbow lake will be done by cutting off the neck of this meander. Okay, the next thing we can do on these things is to consider what happens if we dam up a river. Okay, and so damming a river, basically it slows the water down behind it. Okay, so once you put a dam in, all the water can only go over the top of the dam. The whole bottom part of the dam slows down. Okay, so all the water behind the dam, except that which is flowing right over the top, is slowed down. And what happens is that because you're slowing it down, just like we know from that diagram, you're going to deposit sediment. So behind a dam, it tends to what we call silt up. You get a lot of sediment sitting behind the dam. Okay, and that can be a problem at some point because all that sediment usually is what feeds our beaches. So it keeps our beaches full of sand and provides sediment for other areas downstream from where the dam is, and all of a sudden it's not there anymore, and so you're going to get erosion of the stream bed. You're going to have beaches without enough sand in them, so that can be a problem. Even though the dam we make for a specific reason, we can get some problems from it. Okay, so the first thing is we get siltation behind the dam, just the same reason why we got sedimentation in a point bar. Now, what can happen with the other thing with these dams is they're constantly being eroded all over the top, around the sides. Put a little bit too much water in them, and what happens? You get what is called a dam burst. And dam bursts are very dangerous. Okay, when the dam lets go and lets a whole reservoir go from behind it, it can cause a huge amount of damage. We've had some really tremendous disasters from dam bursts in history. Okay. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to plug up our system here and create a lake or a reservoir. Now in this case now we've cut off the downslope part of the stream, the straight part, and the back part in here, the meander part, is now filling up. If you dribble any sand in here now, you will see whether the sand, where it deposits. And you'll see that it's going to deposit pretty much everywhere because it's much slower. Now once we get this whole thing filled up, what you're going to do is decide how dangerous is it to live on the banks of a river. And so what you're going to do is make a little town down in the straight section of the stream and out of those monopoly houses. We're going to let this stream fill completely up and make a reservoir, and then what we're going to do is pop it and drop that flood down the stream and see what it does to your town. So you get to flood out the town and see how many people are survive.